Emotional intelligence, really useful, good stepping stone, but you must move into emotional mastery because it's probably the thing that's causing your relationships to be chaotic. There's some sort of plateau, some sort of glass ceiling that's not quite making the changes you want. You've read the books, you've listened to all the podcasts, you've even been to therapy. It still goes wrong in the moments you need it. Intelligence lives in our head. This supports you in doing the thing you've always done, is thinking, and to some degree, bypassing. The nervous system hasn't been trained to deal with this level of intensity and emotionality. Emotional mastery is not about controlling our emotions. It's about growing our capacity to hold them and stay with them. Emotional intelligence is like, I understand waves. Whereas emotional mastery is being able to surf the waves skillfully, achieved through somatic practices, somatic awareness, choosing to step into those spaces and staying grounded and present. I don't need to run away. I'm going to stay. What's the next steps in actually really reaching the level of emotionality that you're looking for? So you've probably one of those men who you put your attention on being more emotionally intelligent, being more understanding, aware, thoughtful, and so forth of your emotions, so you can be a better man, so you can be a better partner, but it's not working, right? You've realized there's some sort of plateau, some sort of glass ceiling that's not quite making the changes you want. You're successful in your life. Like I said, you're thoughtful, you're reflective, you are spiritually aware and curious, right? You've read the books, you've listened to all the podcasts, you've even been to therapy. It's a very common one. About 8% of the men I work with have been to therapy. You know all about attachment styles and childhood wounds and communication structures, but it still goes wrong in the moments you need it, right? You shut down in conflict or you blow up during conflict, right? You're losing desire in your relationship or the connection for intimacy, right? Or you're feeling overwhelmed when strong emotions arise in your relationship, right? And you're left thinking, like, I don't understand. I think I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the things and it's still not working. So here I'm going to talk to you about emotional intelligence and the thing that's actually really needed beyond that, because I think in this world we think about emotional intelligence as the kind of pinnacle for us to reach, and it's not. It's kind of the first step, right? The first step, if we were to say there was maybe 3 steps, the first one, emotional intimacy. Sorry, what am I saying? Emotional intelligence. It's the first one, right? So let me talk about emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence to me, right? It's kind of having an awareness of your emotions, right? You're able to name them and express them. You'd be like, I'm feeling anger. You can explain your anger. You can explain that your anger is probably connected to your childhood where your anger was suppressed, or you had a very, angry parenthoods, right? Parenthoods. Is that even a phrase? Parenthoods? No, you have angry parents, right? You can display empathy, you can explain all the patterns, attachment, all that kind of jazz, right? You're in that space and you feel like you're doing the work, and you are doing the work. That's part of the work, but there's more work, right? Because what's happening to you is in the moments that you need it, it's not supporting you. It's not actually making the changes to your behavior in the way that you'd really like. Yeah. And this is something that we don't really talk about. We talk about emotional intelligence as being the pinnacle, and it's not. Right? Because it means that what we do is we amass intelligence. And where does intelligence live? And as much as we say it, intelligence lives in our head. So this supports you in doing the thing you've always done, is thinking, and to some degree, bypassing, right? And I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through today, like, what is needed? What's the next steps in actually really reaching the level of emotionality that you're looking for? Because what I see a lot is men who they almost can feel like they are on this really deep spiritual journey of emotions, but in the moments, and this is what was really important, in the moments when things get difficult, when there's conflict, when there's disagreement, when the sexual moments get really intense, right? What you really want is to be able to be present and notice the feeling and then still be choosing, right? Responding to the moment instead of still falling back on your reactive behavior, which is shutting down, blowing up, running away, hiding, ghosting, depending on the situation it is, right? So let's get into where you're getting stuck. Conflict. You're in a conflict, you're with your partner, and you get triggered. Right? We all get triggered. It's very normal for people to get triggered. I don't think we ever reach a exalted place where triggering doesn't occur. I'm still yet to meet anyone like that. And I've met some pretty emotionally and spiritually evolved human beings, right? Your partner isn't actually attacking you, but it feels like it's an attack. Yeah. You can feel your body responding like it's an attack. You know, you start to feel your chest starts to clench, your jaw starts to get tight, your mind starts to get a bit foggy. Like you start to feel like, you know, you need to attack back. You need to like get the nunchucks, I was going to say. I'm thinking of like Ninja Turtles, right? And here's the thing. What then happens is you shut down, you start over-explaining, or you start under-explaining because you shut down, or you get angry, you go cold, and then you vacate, you leave the room, you leave in some way. You might not leave physically, but you might dissociate, right? And you're there and you're thinking, and you're barely listening to them, right? This is where the insight starts to fail you. The mental aspect of emotional intelligence fails you, right? But what it really is happening is your nervous system is failing you. The nervous system hasn't been trained to deal with this level of intensity and emotionality, right? Of these sorts of moments. You've done the thinking, you could probably look at the emotional wheel and you've done all that kind of stuff, but actually staying present and feeling is still difficult. So let me give you a second example about intimacy, right? You want deep connection, you value emotional closeness, and, you know, you say intimacy matters to you. Right? But when your partner wants maybe more emotional intimacy or sexual intimacy, right? Or your partner wants it slower, or she wants it different, or she gives you some instructions, right? Boom. The emotions hit you. You might start to feel numb. You might feel distracted. You might want to be avoidant. You might get irritable. You might be frustrated that she's telling what to do. You might start to tell yourself you're not good enough, and you start to shrink and hide away in the intimacy, right? And then you're even in it and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? But you still feel helpless to do anything different, right? But here's the thing. It's not about your desire or your want. It's about your system's capacity, right? Your nervous system capacity to deal with those feelings and emotions and still stay grounded and present and choose the thing that you want to do. And now imagine you're starting to see a pattern here, right? You're seeing that actually, when we think it's about the thinking, it's not. In our modern world, right, we believe unconsciously most of the time, we don't even think about that, the most superior organ in our bodies is our brain, right? And as men, we are even more guilty of this, right? Because we just walk around with like heads on a stick. We ignore our bodies other than to do exercise with it. We aren't able to tune into our breath. We aren't able to tune into our heartbeat. We aren't even able to tune into the emotions as they occur in the body and feel them, right? Often when I ask a man, how are you feeling? He just tells me about the thoughts he's having about his feelings. Yeah. And we do this all the time. The thoughts I'm having about my feelings, right? But what we don't actually do is drop down into this body, right? Which is actually giving us the signals to our feelings and actually notice. And we're all walking around doing this, right? And it means that we're really disconnected from what's really occurring, but we're also missing out on a huge reservoir of capacity for us to hold more, right? Which is our nervous system, which is part of our body. You know, the nervous system's plugged into the brain, it runs through the body and so forth. This is where we are losing out on what I would call, and was inspired by this podcast actually, was a conversation between Connor Beaton and John Wanda about traits that as men really need to bring in. One of them was emotional mastery, right? And a lot of men get stuck at this emotional intelligence stage and they never get past emotional intelligence. So they get stuck there. So they get stuck in thinking. They never reach emotional mastery of feeling and embodied experience and capacity to hold, because they read the books. We read the books by, what's his name? Daniel something, who wrote Emotional Intelligence. And we just have all the mental knowledge, right? And we see this in our workplaces. We see this in our relationships. It's all very mental. It's all very thought driven. It's all very rationalized. That's another thing we do. We have a feeling. I feel angry. I feel angry because so-and-so said this to me. And that's related to when my dad used to say this thing to me. And that's really great. And it sounds like you're really in the work and so forth, right? But actually, it's a way of us actually bypassing the felt experience of being angry. because that still feels difficult. That still feels uncomfortable. And there still probably exists some judgment around that, because as men, there's a lot of judgment around us being angry because, you know, every single man I've met in my life has seen what happens when men get angry, right? Whether that's your father, whether he was violent, right? It doesn't have to be violent. All you have to do is know that your parents got angry and they hit you, they shouted at you, they took things away, you felt they were overblown in their response. Or we get onto the wider world and we see what angry men do, right? Whether that's bar fights, whether that's club fights, whether that's stabbings and shootings, whether that is, violence against women and girls, we know what happens, right? We have this idea of when a man gets angry, this is what happens. Like angry man, bad things happen. And that often is the case, but it isn't the only correlation, right? So then we still reject the anger. We don't want to even feel the anger because it feels too intense, right? Or say, for instance, arousal. This is something I see a lot with men, is they, want to have sex, better sex and so forth, but they struggle to actually stay in the sensations and feelings of arousal, the capacity and feeling it. They feel arousal, they're like, I'm horny, and then they think I need to do something about this. So they go and discharge it. Porn, masturbation, what have you, because they still have not grown in the capacity to stay with the sensation of feeling that they experience with the arousal, because it's still too much for them to be with. So emotional mastery, right? Let me say what it is. Emotional mastery is not about controlling our emotions. It's about growing in our capacity to hold them and stay with them, right? Whether those are our emotions, whether those are someone else's emotions, right? And not need to discharge, run away and do something, just to be with, to be present to, right? And stay with. And this is why, when I do work with men, especially when it's in group, we do paired experiences where both men start to feel something, right? And I don't get them to look at each other's eyes and feel anger and rage and express it and then go write it down or say what you're feeling. You teach them to stay in their body and stay present in the moment and stay with the other person while feeling. Because that's the thing that we always do. We escape, we remove ourselves, whether that is physically, whether that is mentally. And then we start to run a story about the emotion instead of feeling it, right? Because the feeling capacity we have not been taught to do. And women are much better at feeling, right? This is why as men, we think women are emotional. It's just that they learn through school, through upbringing, how to feel and then how to express how they feel, right? And how to be with what they feel. And that feels emotional to us because we're generally quite shut down, right? This is the kind of the what's it called? This is how the patriarchy teaches men to be. It teaches us to shut down our own emotions, our emotionality, our needs, because our needs and wants are connected to our emotions. Our desires are connected to our emotions. And our dreams are connected to our emotions, right? If we shut all that down, we just be good cogs in the machine, then wow, there we go, right? But we shut all that stuff down and we try and do that to other people. So the women, when we meet women and they're emotional, we're like, oh God, you're too much. Yeah? And it's true, I've been there, man. I've been that guy who said to women like, oh my God, you're so emotional. You always blow things out. You always make things into a big thing. Like, I've been that guy, It's because I just don't feel anything. Yeah? So emotional mastery is about presence, right? So when we think about it, if we think about intelligence of being the thinking, right? Mastery is around the feeling and the holding, right? Like a cup, yeah? Like you're holding the feelings and emotions, whether there's yours, whether there's someone else's. And why this becomes really important in a relationship is because in those moments where there's conflict, if you can't perfect the skill of listening to your partner, tell you about how they feel, notice your own reaction of anger and frustration and annoyance and feel it fully, and then still respond to your partner with love, care and compassion, right? All you're going to generally end up doing is either you're going to disconnect from the feeling and you're going to become cold and, logical, right? Or you can be reactive because you haven't even noticed that you're feeling these emotions inside, right? So this is why we need to have this kind of be able to kind of split ourselves. It's this very, when you do meditation, it's about being the witness, right? But that just keeps you in a very logical place. That keeps you quite disconnected, right? They teach you to be the witness and observe, really powerful, really useful, stops you from being reactive, but it also stops you from feeling what's actually there, which means you become quite cold and logical. And then those emotions often either start to come up in unconscious ways and leak out, or you just suppressing them completely or repressing them. So if you look at it this way, emotional intelligence is like, I understand waves. I can see the waves on the sea, on the ocean, right? Whereas emotional mastery is being able to surf the waves, yeah, skillfully. You see the comparison? There's one that's just an observer, is disconnected, whereas the mastery is that you're on it, but you're also balanced, right? Skillful, moving through them, moving around them, up and under, you know, as you do. I've actually never surfed, so I can't. I've watched a lot of surfing in my time, right? And most men are taught when it comes down to it. We're taught when emotional intensity comes, we need to either dominate it, disappear, dissociate, right? Or project it onto someone else. That's what we learn to do. So that's what we do, right? If you look in your life, look at football, for example. Really good example. I'm just seeing this so much in the world, but in football at the moment. Soccer to my American listeners. We get frustrated about our team. And instead of realizing that like, I feel really frustrated about my team. I feel frustration. But actually, the team is just doing what the team does. Like, my frustration, I can just feel it. Yeah, move through it. It's okay. Let it pass. We have to pick up our phones and start typing on Twitter. We have to start screaming and shouting at the screen. We have to call our buddy and tell them how rubbish, I'm an Arsenal supporter, how rubbish Arsenal are, right? You even see it in the stadium now, and this is a real Arsenal specific thing, like the amount of anxiety that can't be metabolized by people in the stadium. They're anxious and they can't choose to go, I'm feeling anxious, but actually what's really needed right now is I can feel this anxiety, but actually what's also really needed in this moment is to support my team, right? And then they just become reactive, right, to the anxiety. So they're not even being emotionally intelligent. They're just reactive to the anxiety. They're getting frustrated with the players on the pitch when they're, you know, just being players, right? Sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes do things perfectly. So why are men so lacking in this emotional mastery? And, you know, men are lacking emotional intelligence as well. But as a whole, there's a lot of, not as a whole, but there's a lot of men trying to do the work of emotional intelligence, but they don't reach emotional mastery, right? So it's the conditioning of men, the masculine conditioning. Like I said, the patriarchy wants you not to feel. It wants you just to be a cog in the capitalist system, which is you go to work, you do the work things well, right? And that's it. You do the job that you're told to do. You do all the things you're meant to do. You don't think for yourself. You don't feel for yourself. You don't feel the pain of being away from your family. You don't feel the pain of seeing the land being desecrated. You don't feel the pain of the Epstein files and the women being hurt and raped and molested, right? It wants you just to get on with it and forget it's happening because that makes you a good worker, right? Also, we're taught to perform. We're taught to perform before we're taught to have any sort of presence, and the presence to be with. That's a really important aspect, right? We're taught to perform long before we are taught to be present. No one really teaches how to be present. Yeah? No one really teaches us, you know, I was doing some research. It was like, we're expected to be able to deal with rejection, go for success, and a bunch of other stuff. But no one really teaches how to process rejection well. We don't get taught how to process the emotions and feelings of rejection. We're just told to think our way out of it, and it doesn't work because, you know, if you've dated, you realize that it doesn't work. We're taught problem solving over feeling. Solve the problem. Don't feel what the problem feels like or how it impacts people. Just solve the problem. That's the most important thing. And we're taught, and this is very important, we're taught emotional suppression from very early on in life. The research shows it that young boys, young girls, they have the same emotional capacity, right? And then we beat it out of boys through society. Society beats it out of us. We're told not to feel. We are punished for feeling or expressing how we feel. We're punished for crying and allowing ourselves to be with the feelings and emotions that we have as young people. You've experienced it. I've experienced it. My clients experience it, right? And then we have reached this really strange point in adulthood, especially if you're a successful man, you're a high achieving man, right? The traits that made you successful, control, composure, efficiency, logical thinking, being cold and calculated, those things do not make you successful in relationships. Yeah. So the skill set you learn to be successful in, say, business or work or career is not the same thing that makes you successful in relationships, in intimacy. And it's very important to remember that, because we wonder why, and I did for many years, like, why don't my relationships work? I'm calm. I was emotionally shut down. I give my partner what she wants. I give her my time when it suited me and so forth, right? And we don't understand why what doesn't work, right? Or we avoid our emotions because that's what we're taught to do at work. And then we do that in a relationship. What happens? The relationship drifts. I'm speaking to a lot of men at the moment in longer relationships, and the relationships have drifted and they're really far apart, right? And in some in shorter relationships as well. And this all comes down to the conditioning that we have as men. We don't get taught how to communicate. We don't get taught how to feel. We don't get taught how to connect, right? So we don't know. So when it's difficult and intense, we don't have emotional mastery. Many of us don't have emotional intelligence. So we just run away from the emotions, right? And then that creates a space between us and our partners, because, as I say, the fog between two people is the things we don't talk about, the emotions that aren't felt, and they get in the way of the connection between the two people. So how do you build emotional mastery, right? Emotional mastery is trained. It's not something you think into existence. You can't read books to gain emotional mastery, right? You can't even listen to podcasts to gain emotional mastery, right? It is not achieved through more insight. It's not achieved through more mental meditation, right? It's achieved through somatic practices, somatic awareness of the body, awareness of the energy of the body. It's achieved through breath practice, being with the breath and the presence to the sensation in the body. It's through creating emotional stress and tension, choosing to step into those spaces and staying grounded and present, and practicing those in different ways, whether those are relational moments, whether those are moments on your mat. Like, I sit down, you can't see it, but my little practice mat where my meditation cushion is there, where I will feel and I will express and I will hold, or I go into postures, to hold more capacity. More importantly, it's also done around being around men or mentors who have emotional mastery and capacity, right? So you can have a transmission of that. You can feel what that's like. And it's practicing, again, staying in these emotional situations, like the arousal, like the conflict, and staying present and grounded, and you open your capacity. It's like a little training, right? That's where it starts to grow. That's where it starts to kind of happen. So you see some of the practices that are out there, some of the common ones, Wim Hof breath is a really good example, right? It will grow some of your nervous system capacity. Will it grow your emotional capacity? Maybe, maybe not, right? I find that practicing intense emotional situations, if you can do that in programs or workshops like I run, where you step in and you stay with the feeling and you stay grounded and you stay present. Really important to do. Choosing that, being there. It also gets grown in having difficult conversations in relationships and in dating as well. Like going in and be like, I feel really tense and nervous. I'm going to feel that tension, that nervousness. And I'm going to stay present. I'm going to keep feeling the ground. I'm going to keep feeling my emotions. I'm going to keep feeling the ground. I'm going to keep feeling my emotions. And I'm going to keep being attuned to the person in front of me. Often you build this capacity by holding multiple things, your awareness at the same time. Yeah, your feelings and emotions, the sense of presence of a person. And no one teaches us to do this. Yeah? We just get hijacked by one thing. And this is something obviously in my program that's coming up late, something we're going to put a lot of focus on because it's really important to do this, right? Some of the transmission comes through being with the other men, right? On the calls and the live calls and so forth, because we don't really get that in our lives, the practice of like sharing and opening and being in feelings and emotions and staying there and not having to give it the story of shame, but being there together, feeling and being like, oh, this is okay. I'm safe. It's cool to do this. I can be present here. I don't need to run away. I'm going to stay. So I'm going to start to finish up now. So this is where, like I said, emotional intelligence, really useful, good stepping stone, but you must move into emotional mastery because it's probably the thing that's causing your relationships to be chaotic, to be disconnected and frustrating for you, right? Emotional intelligence will help you understand your inner world, right? Emotional mastery will help you determine whether you can live beyond that and expand beyond just what's in your inner world and start connecting deeply with the outer world, right? I think that's what I'm going to say today. I just want to say that this touches many aspects, not just relationships. This is work, right? You want to be a good leader, you want to be a good manager, you need emotional mastery. Yeah, because you need to be able to be with your feelings, someone else's, and also tether to something that's not just emotionality, which is presence, right? And be able to tap into that information that's in your mind is just vital. And I've seen it. I've led people. I've been managing people. I lead workshops. I lead programs. If I'm just in my fear and worry about how well the day's going to go, then that's what starts to lead. Yeah. And if I'm all in my head, then I'm just in logic. I can't pass through the nervousness and let that dissipate and then come to bring my whole body and mind to really be present with the people in the workshop. So if this is a concept that's really interesting to you and you can see this is useful to work on in your relationship so you can be more tuned, more connected to your partner, or actually you want to be more tuned and connected in your dating life because you struggle with your fear of sex and arousal, for example, right? Then my program Relate, which is going to start in mid-March, it's going to be perfect for you. Yeah. And it's going to be it's going to be online self-serve program. And there's going to be 2 live sessions a month. I was going to say a week, but that's way too much. 2 live sessions a month where you can be with me. You can be coached. You can get practices. You can do Q&As. It's going to be all in there, right? There's going to be a wonderful group of men. So if you're interested in that, there is a wait list down below. Just add your name there and you'll get some emails about signing up when the time comes. If you enjoyed this video, please send it over to someone. Pass it on to another man, right? Or if you're a woman listening to it, pass it on to your partner. If you liked it as well, leave a comment, leave a like. It doesn't take you 30 seconds and it's much appreciated by me. Ciao, ciao.